This podcast is produced by St. Paul Public Schools Literacy and Personalized Learning Department at the Office of Teaching and Learning. Welcome to On the Spot Literacy, connecting teachers together to share ideas. I'm Sue Braithwaite. Do you have a question?
Hi, I'm Valora Yanowski. Today's podcast is about the art of the mini lesson in the Reader's Workshop. After listening to today's podcast, you will be able to identify the key components of a mini lesson and how to purposefully plan a mini lesson that is concise, focused, and effective. To start with, what is a mini lesson? A mini lesson kicks off your Reader's Workshop. It is the lesson focus of the grade level standard or strategy. It teaches one lesson, a strategy, a skill, or a literary analysis, always at grade level. It is short, sharp, and focused, no more than 10 to 12 minutes in length. Remember that not all of your readers are reading at grade level, and this could be too hard or too easy for some of your students. The teacher teaches and then models the grade level skill or strategy using grade level text. Be sure to link to independent reading time and the wrap up at the closing share. This means that as you're teaching your strategy, you're being mindful that students will be expected to apply that strategy during their independent time with their own independent reading books. In reading, the mini lesson typically uses shared reading or an interactive read aloud, but this could be different on different days. The mini lesson follows a gradual release of responsibility sequence. More on this to come. Within a mini lesson, there are 4 basic components: the connect, the teach, active engagement, and the link. In the connect, the teacher explicitly articulates to students why today's instruction is important to them as readers and relates how the lesson relates to prior work. The teaching point is stated, and language such as yesterday we learned about, or yesterday we learned how to, or yesterday, readers, we, and today I want to teach you. It's very specific. The language is very explicit, and the teacher is mindful that they are adding a tool to the students' toolboxes, so to speak. Next comes the teach. In the teach, the teacher models what is being taught. A teacher might model how and when the strategy or concept might work best. The teacher might show an example, involve the class in an example, or take them through guided practice. What's very important is that the teacher needs to model for the students what the strategy looks like in text. So the teacher might have language such as, today I'm going to show you how to, or watch me as I. This is sometimes a step that teachers miss. Teachers may do a very good job of stating the teaching point, but forget to explicitly model how that strategy should be applied within text. Next comes the active engagement. After something is taught, students then must be given the opportunity to quickly practice what has been taught or to share what they noticed during the demonstration in order for them to better understand the strategy. They may be engaged in a turn and talk, a think, pair, share, heads together, group brainstorming, a think, pair, write. The list goes on and on. The important part to remember is that students must be allowed that time to practice a strategy within that mini lesson time before they are expected to apply it on their own during independent work time. It's also important to note that they must practice the strategy connected to the standard. Focus always needs to be on the strategy, not the text. And the last component of the mini lesson is the link. The teacher reiterates what has just been taught, adding it to the student's toolbox or repertoire. Students are reminded that today's strategy can be used today and every day to strengthen their reading. Students must be given a specific job for practice during independent reading time that day. Whatever strategy they have just learned, they now must practice on their own during independent reading time in their own independent reading text. This may involve using post-it notes, to record their ideas or where they were able to apply their strategies in their reading, or they may record their ideas or their findings in their reader's response journal that day. During the share at the end of the reader's workshop, students should be bringing back evidence of where they were able to apply that skill or strategy in their own reading. Typical language around the link may sound like, today I taught you how to, or today and every day you can, and especially today when you go off to read, you are going to practice, etc. Earlier, I mentioned the gradual release model. Gradual release of responsibility in the mini lesson has 4 components. Gradual release consists of I do, you watch, I do, you help, you do, I help, and you do, I watch. How does this fit into the mini lesson? Well, with explicit instruction and modeling, clearly that's the I do, you watch part. During the collaborative guided practice, the I do, you help, and the you do, I help comes in during the active engagement. Then, as students move on to independent practice during independent work time, that's the you do, I watch component. So the 10-12 minutes of the mini lesson actually has a lot going on, with that gradual release model having to be fit into that 10-12 minutes. But students are not ready to move into the independent work time doing this, practicing the skill on their own without the 4 components. And a note about the share. The share is a part of the reader's workshop that is very, very important. It's only 5 minutes and it comes at the tail end of a very busy hour, but it's so important. It does a few different things. It wraps up the workshop and solidifies the learning, but it also helps create a tight focus for the teaching point and for the mini lesson. When a teacher plans, knowing that there's going to be a share at the end of the workshop, he or she is very mindful that students must be held accountable for the independent practice that they will be then bringing back evidence of during the share. It allows for the teacher to gauge success of the mini lesson and whether or not the teaching point landed. And it provides accountability for students who need to be practicing the strategy during the independent time. It also provides that built-in formative assessment of the teaching as well as for student progress. That share is something that teachers often miss because of time constraints or, well, many issues, but remember that the share does not have to be formal. It can look different on different days. You don't always have to pull students back into the mini lesson area. Some days you could simply just stop students where they are and do a popcorn share. Some additional resources and sample videos are provided here for you. There's a mini lesson planning template that goes through the 4 components of the mini lesson, reminds you what those components are for, and gives you some space to do some planning. And there are 2 mini lesson examples that are excellent examples of what a mini lesson could look like, and you can see the 4 components clearly within them. For any other additional questions or for support, please contact me and I'd be happy to help you out. It's valora.yanowski@spps.org. Thank you so much for joining us today for On the Spot Literacy. See you next time.